It was a chilly December in Santa Claus, Georgia. The Daniels family had already had their Christmas tree up, and Christmas was a big family holiday for them. A farmer spotted three young girls walking, and he asked them if they were okay, because they were barefooted in their pajamas. When he realized that they were over 40 miles from home, he called the police. When the policemen picked the girls up and started asking them questions like their address and their names, he went to do a wellness check at the family residence. When he entered the Daniels residence, he wasn't at all prepared for what he saw. Kim Daniels struggled with addiction for some time, so she lost custody of her daughters. But as some time went by, she fought for her recovery and got her daughters back. She soon met Danny Daniel. He was a churchly man, and he had kids also, so the two of them took their relationship slowly. They ultimately ended up getting married and then blending their family into one household. The kids talked about how they didn't feel like they were step siblings, they felt like a whole family. They enjoyed each other's company every day. Kim was a stay-at-home mother, so she took care of the kids, and Danny Daniels provided for the family. Kim decided to become a foster mom because the foster care system treated her well. This was Kim's way of giving back. One of the first kids that they fostered was Joanna Mosley, a 10-year-old girl. She ended up at the Daniels' home because she was in a toxic environment at home. But Joanna's mother would visit her. But whenever she would visit, she would bring her 20-year-old son, Jerry Scott Heidler. The kids called Jerry Scott, and he played with them and got along with them very well. But over time, he started developing a relationship with Danny Daniels' daughter, Jessica, and she was only 16. So Danny briefly had a conversation with Scott about this. Ultimately, at some point, Scott stopped coming over. Joanna returned home at some point to her mother, and the family hadn't seen either of them for 2 years. But it's believed that the conversation that Danny had with Scott might have triggered the situation that happened next. Amber was at the police station telling her side of what happened. She was the key witness to solving the case. The police officer gave her 6 mugshots, and she showed Scott. She told the police that on December 4th, 1997, she was rushed out of her home by Scott. He had awoken her frantically and told her that they needed to leave. He escorted Amber, her younger sister Amanda, and Brooke out of the home. While it was happening, Amber asked why they were leaving. He told her that her parents had already left with her other siblings and that he was going to take them to her parents. She had no reason to not trust Scott, because he was kind to them over those years when he visited the residence. So her and her sisters followed him. But before they left the home, she saw her younger brother, Corey, and she heard her other sibling that was a baby crying. She then asked him, "Why are we leaving them?" And he said the parents were coming back for them. They got into his car and they were driving for about 30 minutes. Over the time, the girls got anxious because they didn't know where they were going and they didn't know where their parents were, so they started crying. He ultimately stopped the vehicle. He told Amber to go to the back of the vehicle, and he told her siblings to go to the front. Once they got to the back, Amber was asking questions. Scott started taking his clothes off, and then he forced himself onto Amber. When Amber started crying, he told her that if she kept crying, that he was going to do it to her other siblings. So she stopped crying. After he stopped essaying her, he started back driving the vehicle. The next stop he made, he went to a bridge where there was water. He held the girls at gunpoint, and then ultimately threw the gun in the water. Amber and her sisters made a run for it. But he caught up with Brooke and told the other two that if they didn't turn back around, he was going to throw Brooke into the water. All of the girls returned to the vehicle. He started back driving again. He then made another stop. He let them out of the vehicle and told them that he would be back in 5 minutes, and then drove off. Brooke and her sisters started running. They saw a farm, and then they later saw headlights again. The girls were scared because they thought it was Scott. Amber told her sisters to jump in a ditch, but this is when they realized that it was a farmer. They had finally been saved. Once all of Amber's family made it to the station, she realized that she didn't see her parents. So she asked them, "Where are my parents?" And one of her younger siblings said that they were deceased. She told him to stop playing and that she didn't believe him. But once she saw the look on all the adults' faces in the room, she knew it was true. Amber refused to let Scott get away with this. So she became the key witness in solving the whole case. She gave them as many details as possible and his whole name. During Scott's trial, the police had believed that Scott had broken into the family's window and tried to make sexual advances on Jessica. And this is when Jessica had ran to her parents' room. And Scott, knowing the family's residence, he would have known where the family kept their gun. So he went and got the family's shotgun and proceeded to shoot Bryant Jessica, Kim, and Danny. And by then, Scott ran out of bullets, so he ran off with the girls. Scott was ultimately sentenced to death for taking the lives of Kim, Danny, Jessica, and Bryant.